I'm Nisha DeGaring.
And I'm Doug Jessup. Family Heritage Stories exist to give you ideas and examples of stories from the past to help shape the future.
It could be anything like a recipe from Grandma or a vacation location where your ancestors came from. These stories deserve to be passed down. Welcome to Family Heritage Stories, where we talk about what makes us who we are. Things like traditions, values, and culture.
How are these things passed down from generation to generation? Through deeds, through words, through stories. We all benefit from heroes among us. Now, they're going to say, it's just part of the job. But it's more than that. It's time for Hero Salute Stories.
My grandfather, my father's father, Bill Moldover, he was a World War I veteran. He was born in 1898. He was a guy who was fascinated by inventions and mechanical things, and he ended up in the first bombing battalion of the United States Army, and he was over in France. They flew European planes. And he was mostly a mechanic, but he also was the second guy in a plane who would unclip bombs and drop them on things. And also, I think they used to take photographs too. He was in the 94th Squadron. They were the first bombing squadron, and they still exist as a squadron.
Else in your family served in the military?
Yeah, quite a few people, yeah.
Tell me, pick one.
Well, my dad was in the Navy. He turned 17 on D-Day, and he had just graduated early from high school. He rushed to the Navy recruiters because they would take people at 17. The Army wanted them to be 18. And we're Jewish. My dad wanted to kill Germans. So he showed up and said, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to kill Germans. Give me a rifle. And they said, well, you did really well on the test. We're going to make you a nurse. So he never went overseas. He became a nurse. And of course, back then, after D-Day, there were lots and lots of wounded returning, and that's what he worked on. And he eventually became a dentist.
Thank you for joining us for this special episode of Family Heritage Stories. If you would like to help us continue with this great and important programming, please visit herosalutestories.org.
Hi. Just wanted to let you know that we have pre-boarding for military personnel at the gate.
We are ready to invite our first-class passengers and our uniformed military personnel to board at this time.
To those who put our country first, we are honored to do the same for you.
There's a special bond between grandparents and grandkids.
Tell me a story about your grandma or grandpa.
So I had a grandma that lived in Menominee, Michigan. That's where my mom is from, and this is her mom. And she was a very sweet lady, like the sweetest woman you could ever meet. Very Christian, just really sweet and fun. Anyway, she taught me one of my most favorite card games, which is called Liverpool Rummy. She could shuffle unlike anyone I've ever seen. Yeah, but she could do like the shuffling though in her hands, you know, where it goes like up and down, up and down. I still can't do that. She could do like the bridge with the cards, all that. I never could figure that out, but I did learn how to play that card game from her. And that is a game that I continue to play with my family, with my kids as they get older. They're little right now, but I'm going to teach them that game. So that's going to be a tradition that will stay in our family, I think, for years. She's gone now, but we'll never ever forget playing cards with her when I was a little girl.
And see, that's the cool thing, because to me, if stories don't get passed down from generation to generation, they're lost.
Yeah, agree.
And then it's like those people never existed, and it's like, So that's the whole reason I do the show. So it doesn't have to be the same side, but tell me about one of your grandpas.
So it can be the same side actually. So my grandpa Bill, that was my grandma Millie that I told you about. My grandpa Bill was really cool too. He also a great card player. I mean, two of them played cards all the time with friends. Pinochle was another big game that they would play. But kind of funny story. So I love maraschino cherries, and I always have. And he would often drink. I forget what the I didn't know what the drink was. I was a little girl at the time, but he'd be sitting there with a drink in hand, playing cards or doing a crossword puzzle or something fun, and I would just sneak by and I would steal the cherries out of his drink. And so there's pictures of me even doing that, like holding a cherry in my hand next to him with a little smile. But yeah, I was the cherry stealer from his drinks. So they may have had a little alcohol on them, but I didn't know.
Broadcasting from Lanny Bernard Gallery, you're watching Family Heritage Stories. We'll be right back. Every veteran has a story that deserves to be remembered. At Family Heritage Stories, we collect, preserve, and share those personal experiences of our veterans. Your donations help us document and honor those veterans and their legacies for generations to come. Join us in ensuring that their legacies live on. Donate today at herosalutestories.org.
Jeremy Albrecht, what do you do with an elephant that has 3 balls? You walk him and pitch to the rhino.
You're watching Family Heritage Stories with me and my grandpa. We'll be right back.
Let's go, Mom. We're going to be late. Hi, Mr. Tony. Mom, what's that?
Nothing. Just get in the car. Let's go.
Who did that?
Come on. Right now. In. Get in. Right now. Let's go.
Did you paint it or something?
Move it. Seatbelt on. Right now. Put your seatbelt on.
Hi, Mr. Tony.
Have you ever wondered how an object becomes important enough to be passed down from generation to generation? Well, later in the show, we share one of our viewers' treasures remembered.
There is no greater storyteller than Doug Jessup. His work to preserve our cultural heritage and tell the stories that are really shaping not only our past but our future are more important than ever.
Imagine capturing the voices, the wisdom, the humor of your loved ones. It will be cherished for generations. To schedule an interview with either yourself or one of your loved ones, contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org.
What does heritage mean to you?
Hi, this is Doug Jessup. Welcome to this episode of Family Heritage Stories. With me today, Rabbi Sam Spector. Rabbi, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Doug. It's always a joy and a pleasure.
Well, the thing that I like is the fact that you and I share some heritage. And the reality is the show is called Family Heritage Stories. So to you, what is heritage?
Heritage means everything to me. Heritage is a story of where my family came from, and it helps me embody who I am today, and how I live my life is what has helped me want to be a rabbi. And in Hebrew we talk about Ledor Vador, how we have passed the Torah from one generation to the next for thousands of years. And now as a father and as a rabbi, I get to pass those values to my daughters and to my students. And it's the most important thing in my life to know that I'm not going to let that passing of Torah end with me.
Well, the show has three little legs, if you will. It's about traditions, it's about values, and it's about culture. So, man, you got all three of those.
All of those
all
tie
real
right
heavy.
into my heritage.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the traditions that have been passed down in your family.
Well, there are so many traditions that have been passed down to me. And to all Jewish people. As a 13-year-old, I was called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. When I was 8 days old, we had a bris, and my parents gave me a Hebrew name to use for ceremonial purposes. And every Friday night, now with my daughters, I and my wife, I light the Shabbat candles and have Shabbat dinner and give my daughters a blessing that has been passed down for thousands of years among the Jewish people. And so those traditions have been immensely important and help ground us and help us remember that there's something bigger than us that we're all a part of.
Right. Well, you learned those from someone, okay? So I could talk about your parents, but I'm going to jump a generation.
Sure.
Okay. So, and you get to pick. Did you know your grandparents?
So I knew my mom's parents some. They died 2 weeks apart from each other when I was 6 weeks old, 6 years old. And they were blue-collar folks in Birmingham, Alabama. My grandfather had served in the U.S. military during World War II and was a World War II veteran. And really proud of him for that. A lot of my Jewish inspiration, though, came from my other set of grandparents, who I sadly did not get to meet. My middle name is Lewis, which was my grandfather's name, and they were also very middle-class folks in a small town in Illinois, who my grandfather owned a liquor store and bar, and he died when he was 53. My dad was 16 years old. He had a heart attack and died on his way to work one day, and the bar closed when he passed. And a few years later, my grandmother sadly passed away in her 50s from complications of a surgery. So I didn't get to know them, but I grew up hearing about their memory from my father a lot and from people who knew them. And even though I didn't get a chance to meet them, I'd say that there's been no two people who have had a greater impact on my life than the two of them.
Hi guys, this is Doug Jessup with Brandon Fugal, and today we're talking Utah success stories. Now, Brandon, I've interviewed you a number of times, and basically you kind of epitomize success. So to you, what is the definition of success?
The definition of success to me is really anyone who is excellent at whatever field that they choose, whatever occupation that they choose. It doesn't matter whether they're a teacher, an engineer, whether they're operating the convenience store, or a captain of industry, a CEO of a major global company. Those people who become the best, who become not only the subject matter experts in their field, but execute their jobs with excellence, in my mind, are the true professionals and examples.
There's one picture that I remember seeing of you, and this is what I think people think, oh, it's an overnight success. No. I mean, you worked your way up.
People either think I was born into wealth or that I quickly ascended to a position of leadership in the commercial real estate community, and that's just absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
I took a risk, jumped into commercial real estate right out of high school because it was the only career path that would afford me the opportunity to work with the captains of industry. And it was a wonderful coincidence that I found that I could be compensated if I happen to add value to those that I was advising, whether they be landlords, developers, companies, entrepreneurs. And to this day, it continues to blow my mind how much the commercial real estate industry, which is my primary area of focus, actually delivers a tangible manifestation of one's labors. To be able to see kind of the fingerprints or at least a physical manifestation of that on the skyline.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I look at. It's like, okay, your kids and grandkids and, people down the, when we're all dead and gone, this is going to be able to say, hey, see that building right there?
Oh.
Hey, Grandpa Brandon did that kind of thing.
But it takes a team. I mean, every transaction, every iconic building, place of business, mall, you name it. I mean, the skyline of our community is really the result of community leaders joining forces with industry, with the private sector, and working together to create something that is transcendent, both literally and figuratively. I think knowing that it does take a team and a cooperative approach is something that is very important. And public-private partnerships in Utah, in our market here, are more important than ever in driving economic growth and activity into the future.
Well, and I don't know if this is a stretch, but the reality is I look at the longest living career out there is actually a conductor of a symphony. Okay.
Right.
And they don't have to know every single instrument, and be perfect at it, but they need to know how to put together beautiful music. And so you've been really, really successful at building a team.
Right.
What do you think, what's a good team look like?
Yeah, multidisciplinary. I think you have to have a multidisciplinary, multifaceted approach that pulls together talent, insight, and skill sets from a diversity of backgrounds. I'm very fortunate to have teammates, to have partners who, in some cases, are much stronger than I am in areas associated with analysis and execution, and really surrounding yourself with people that, in so many ways, are better than you.
Well said. With another Utah success story and Brandon Fugal, I'm Doug Jessup. We'll be right back.
You learn a lot about traditions, values, and culture when you travel.
Growing up, we spent almost all of our time outside. Illinois is more than what most people think it is. I'm Dennis Sporleader.
I'm Carol Sporleader, and we're at Starved Rock State Park in Oglesby, Illinois.
I bet people lived in there.
Baby caveman.
Definitely.
Wow.
Spectacular.
Look at that. Oh, it's a
Oh,
waterfall.
Well, we've come back to Illinois to take our two granddaughters to some of the places we loved when we were younger, which is totally different than what they're used to in California. And when I was in college, about 1970, my geology class came here to Starved Rock. This is a special place right here.
Oh, you should go first. Whoa, that's so cool.
The best part about this trip is being back in Illinois and getting to see where our grandparents grew up.
Made it! Matheson Lake Falls! Woo! I love my grandma and grandpa so much, and we have such great times together. Hey, Sam!
Lexi, that's
Eagle.
a bald eagle
It's
up
an
there.
eagle.
Look, there's the eagle.
Wonderful to be back in Illinois. I've missed it for a long time.
Dennis and I met at Northern Illinois University back in 1972. Can you believe that? 50 years.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you. When we got married, the budget was really tight. We did love to travel, so what we did was drive around and just went camping.
You got it?
Yeah.
Good job.
Camping outside just always felt so different from our regular everyday life. You know, being either in the city or in the suburbs, it was just quiet and peaceful. And
I like camping because we grew together as we camped. You really learn to know someone, you're together with them.
family to me is tradition, sharing a lot of laughs, especially our family, I would say. Laughing is very important.
So, Carol, how is your life in the wild?
I'm just a mess here.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Good night, Grandma and Grandpa.
Good night, girls.
Good night, girls. Well, growing up, did a lot of fishing. A lot of fishing. My brothers and I both like to fish. We fished in lakes all over northern Illinois and just really enjoyed being outside in the serenity of it and the beauty of the lakes. Girls, this is Pierce Lake, and we're going to be fishing for bluegill and crappie. If we're lucky, we'll get a bass.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Now, make sure you always look behind you to make sure there's nobody around that can get hooked, including your grandfather. Nice job.
Guys, I'm already catching a fish.
That's so cool.
I think Illinois is a huge part of my identity. Illinois is the place I frequently identify myself as being from, even though I live someplace else.
Very frequently.
Oh, look how big that one is.
Look at the size of that guy.
Where?
The wings on the side.
Whoa! Look how pretty the lake is.
Wow, this is so pretty.
Yeah. This really is the middle of everything.
Objects with stories, our treasures remembered.
Why did the chicken cross the plains? Well, because somebody put it in a wagon westward in the 1850s. This treasured remembered is a porcelain chicken dish. The story goes that its original owner, Elna Olsdotter Hansen, a Swedish immigrant, purchased the dish in the eastern United States. It was deemed special enough that it was packed in Captain Brown's wagon train from Iowa, bound for Salt Lake City, and ended up in Mount Pleasant, Utah. The dish was then passed on to her daughter, Christina Peterson. Christina passed it on to her daughter, Hannah Tucker. The chicken then went to Hannah's son and daughter-in-law, Valton and Lorna Tucker. The chicken journeyed next to their daughter, Dorothy MacArthur, who in turn passed it down to her daughter, Camille Jessup. Quite the journey for that chicken. Everyone has a story. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. Everyone has a story.
And sometimes those stories are told through music.
Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other.
If you want help saving your family heritage stories with a private interview, contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org for pricing and availability. It's our honor to be able to help people remember where they came from.
The Fedora Foundation supports the collection, preservation, and distribution of diverse stories of traditions, values, and culture through Family Heritage Stories, on TV and online at familyheritagestories.org.
How do you want to be remembered? With another episode of Family Heritage Stories, I'm Nisha Dagiri.
And I'm Doug Jessup.